Good afternoon. Today is March 6, 2024, and I will call to order this first public meeting of a public listening session by the county's Charter Review Commission for 2024. Let me start by introducing the members of the Charter Review Commission, some of whom we have attending in person with us today, and some of whom are attending virtually online in our Zoom session. I'm Jim Michaels, Chair of the Commission. To my right, we have Sherry Brett Majors. Online, we have Cece Grant. We have Marvin Lynch. We have Jeffrey Naftal. Here in person, we also have Michael Persch. And we have former council member Howard Dennis. And also members of the commission are David Nachsheim, Dylan Pressman, and Marcella Samuels. I want to acknowledge that we're assisted here today, as we are at every one of our meetings, by council staff and staff from the county attorney's office, and we thank them for the enormous amount of help they provide to us as we do the work of the commission. There may be some who are watching at home or watching this hearing either live or in the recorded version afterwards who are not familiar with the work of the commission, so I want to give a very, very brief introduction to what the Charter Commission is supposed to do. We're established by County Charter Section 509 as an advisory body, and we are to study the charter and consider recommendations for possible amendments to the charter. And the commission is reconstituted every 4 years with the appointment of 11 new members. The current commission was appointed in July 2023, and we're required to file 2 reports. We're required to file reports by May 1st of every even-numbered year, which means our first report will be due by May 1st of this year. That comes only about seven and a half months after our initial meeting last September, which means we have a very short, we have a very short first semester and a very, very long second semester, which is 2 years long. But that will give us 2 full years to study any of the ideas that are brought to us either by the public or government officials during the course of the next 2 years. By necessity, our first report, we decided we would focus on topics that we thought we could competently study and complete within the 7 months it takes before we have to file our first report. So we had chosen 3 topics for that purpose. In the next 2 years, we will have a chance to have public listening sessions all across the county. It's our plan to have them in each of our 5 regional service areas to give all parts of the community a chance to participate. And we will collect ideas that we hear during those sessions as well. But for today, we've asked comments specifically on 3 specific proposals. The first is whether we should consider amending our charter to directly elect one of our at-large members to be the council president for a full 4-year term, or whether we might consider an alternate proposal that would have council members choose the council president as they do today, but to have that choice be one that gives that person a 2-year term rather than the current 1-year term that they're using under their existing operating rules. The second proposal would be whether to amend Section 305 of our charter, which deals with budget matters, because there are 3 different voting levels for supermajorities within that one single section. There are 3 aspects of the budget approval process in that Section 305, and they each have a different voting level for a supermajority. One requires a supermajority of 7 votes, one requires 8 votes, and one requires a unanimous vote of all 11 council members, even though when it was first initiated there were actually only 9 members and it required 9 votes. So we're going to consider whether or not some changes are warranted to that provision. And then the third thing we're seeking input on is Section 215 of the charter, dealing with the appointment of non-merit, and what that means is hires that are not part of the competitive hiring process, but they're non-merit appointments that the county executive can make, and whether or not some of those appointments should be not subject to council confirmation. Currently, we have 36 non-merit positions that are not agency heads or department heads, and they are subject to council confirmation, and those are the positions we're talking about. The positions there are 23 positions that are agency and department heads that we are not addressing at all. They would continue to be subject to council confirmation, but we've been asked to consider whether or not the non-agency head depositions could be appointed by the county executive without going through a confirmation process, which takes an additional amount of time. Whatever recommendations this commission members might make, we will put them in a report. It was strictly advisory in nature, as I said. It will then be up to the council to choose whether or not to take up those recommendations. If they do take them up, I would expect that there would be a public hearing, as there typically is, to gather public input. And then the council would vote on whether or not to approve any of those amendments. And if they do, then they're put on the ballot for approval by the voters. And that's the way the process works. And so everybody gets some opportunity to participate. With that background, we're going to hear now from those who have specifically requested to speak today. I'm going to ask those who registered previously to speak, please come down to the front to one of our speakers tables. And I'm going to ask whether we have anybody else. I don't see anybody else in the room, but I'm going to ask if we have anybody else online. Nope, we have nobody else online who still would like an opportunity to speak, so we're going to have our two speakers come down. So I had, in our notice, we asked speakers to limit themselves to 3 minutes because we don't have a large number of speakers. I'm going to be pretty lenient if some of our speakers want to go beyond a little beyond their 3 minutes. Within reason, we're going to let them do that. We're going to try to also be respectful, though, of our commission members' time as well. And so I think if we get to 5 minutes or more, but that may be enough to cover your points. I think at some point we'll move on. You're certainly welcome to extend your remarks by submitting written comments. I understand we do have some written comments already. As other members of the public are also welcome to submit written comments at any time. We've got a dedicated Charter Review Commission email address that's listed on our webpage. So written comments are welcome. For each of the witnesses, I ask, when it is your turn, please push the button in front of you, which folks tend to forget to do. That will turn on your mic. When you're finished, please push it again to turn off your mic. And when you give your remarks, please, I ask you to start by stating your name and also tell us which part of Montgomery County you are from, and then tell us whether you've brought any written copy of your remarks to include in the record, and then we will get started. I will start to my left here and ask former commission, we have a former Charter Review Commission member, Larry Lauer, is our first speaker, and I will ask Mr. Lauer to get started.
The light's on, so I think this is working now. Thanks. I'm Larry Lauer. I live in Albany, Maryland. I've lived in Albany since 1988. And before that, I'm a full-time county resident. I was born in Tacoma Park and lived in Silver Spring and now live in Albany. So I've never lived anywhere but in Montgomery County. I'm a product of both the public school and also of Montgomery College. It used to be called Montgomery Junior College when I went there. Anyway, I'm come today to talk about the two of the current items. The most pressing one, I think, is the election of a 4-year president of the council from the at-large members, and this issue has come up before, and we've had other councils have had discussions on it. In particular, I remember Nancy Florine at one time was a council member from at-large, came and urged us to look at this issue, and we did. And there were a number of reasons that we didn't move it forward. One of the main ones was that it seemed to be unnecessary, that the council, through an internal vote that they take every year, elects the council president. And if they had somebody who was so outstanding that they wanted them to be president for all 4 years, they have the ability to do that now. And so there's not anything prohibiting someone from being that. And then the other reason that we thought that this was not really a particular good issue is that it would make the at-large members somehow innately more qualified to be president than any of the district members. So you have 7 district members, 4 at-large members, and I can't understand why any of the district members would vote to put this on the ballot as a practical reason. But also, I don't see any reason why there's anything thing about an elected at-large member that makes them a better candidate for the council presidency than any of the seated members. And that was also one of the discussions. People felt that it would also be a divisive issue. It would create problems that we don't have now. If you were to have a 4-year elected council president, it would set up a power dynamic in the county where you would have someone who would be elected 4 years to manage the complex systems of the county, and another person elected for 4 years that has all the purse strings and the agenda-setting powers of the council. And this would almost revert us back to a council management area, where which we had before we changed the charter and became an executive thing. So we felt that that was probably not a good thing to have. And if you had someone who was elected for 4 years to be council president, and they were pro or against any particular issue, they could have a controlling interest in that, and you couldn't get rid of them. In other words, they would be elected for 4 years, and if you had a bad council manager that didn't get along with the other 10 members, that then you still couldn't remove them unless by impeachment. And also there's an issue of the down county and up county issues. Most of the at-large members are elected, in fact, I think all of them are elected from the down county areas, from what they call the Democratic Crescent. And people from the up county do not statistically or historically elect an at-large member. And I think this would add to the division within the county. It would be an area where the up county area people may feel less powerful, less involved, and less able to get their problems addressed and things like this because of if you had an at-large member elected that way. The second issue that about the on 305 also has come up, and it doesn't seem that there is a problem now. I mean, the council, when they have to vote for a budget and it's within their spender affordability guidelines and the money's, it's a majority vote to win. If they have to violate their own spending affordability limit, it seems reasonable to have a supermajority, something more than 6, to vote for that. So, and then of course the issue of tax levies, where they need to, where they feel that there is a need to exceed the increase that's normally available for taxes as the increase in property value goes, and that was passed by a referendum brought to the ballot where it requires a unanimous vote of the council, and there doesn't seem to be a problem with that. When they've had to do that in the past, they've been able to muster the unanimous vote to do that. So this seems like, both of these issues seems like solutions looking for a problem, and it doesn't seem to didn't seem to us at other times. If you look back on the council records, particularly in 2016, 2020, you'll see this issue has come up before and has been discussed. And those were some of the reasons that we felt that it was not appropriate to move forward on those things, on those two issues. On the issue of the non-merit appointees, I don't know that there's any particular reason for the council to approve them. I think the council has non-merit appointees also. So I don't see any reason why the executive couldn't have that, as long as they're not in the merit system and not being promoted through the normal what do they call it in the county, civil service type environments. Then I don't see any reason to do it. In fact, that's kind of a minutia that's in the charter, which I don't even think should be in there, because the charter is supposed to be like the Constitution and not have all these tiny little things in there like that, approving those things. Anyway, that's I just wanted to talk to the current CRC about this. I have submitted my online to Stephen my statement, but I have 6 hard copies here if you'd like to have them afterwards. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, we will turn now to our second public participant, who is Gordy Bren. Mr. Bren.
Thank you, Jim. Gordy Brenny with the Taxpayers League. I'm treasurer of the Taxpayers League and have been affiliated with the Taxpayers League for over 10 years. And as a volunteer, like you all are, I can very well appreciate the challenge you have in herding cats to get to a consensus. I will give you some background. I live in Silver Spring. I've lived there since 1983. I'm an accountant. I did a lot of consulting for local governments. It was one of my specialties with Booz Allen, Grant Thornton, PricewaterhouseCoopers. I was also a controller at Marriott Corporation and director of internal audit for Marriott. But I represent the Taxpayers League. We've been around since 1975. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan. We strongly believe that the issues that the county faces are nonpartisan issues. We strongly believe that education, public safety, transportation, health and welfare are key issues for our residents and should not be partisan issues, and we are trying to approach those questions in a nonpartisan way, and this will be the test for us today. I'd like to speak first to the council president issue. I thought Larry's comments were extremely on point. This is not in our wheelhouse, and it's not something we gave prior thought to. We were rather startled to see Councilmember Friedson make public comments that were quoted saying that he'd like to see the public at large vote on who could assume this 4-year position. It's rather startling. We think that the idea of a 1-year term should require a high hurdle of 8 votes. We see no inherent benefit in limiting the choice to at-large members and have concerns about the benefits and accountability of the at-large member franchise, which operates as a down-county cabal. And I say that knowing, as neighbors, many members of the council who live in down-county. Voters want to hold members accountable for choices that affect complex internal council processes that they can't understand and are often the result of factors that change year to year, like changes to land use policies or economic factors that are hard to predict. And the results of this are something the voters only see after the fact. So asking the voters to make an informed choice on this matter is, I think, rather ridiculous. Council members can make mistakes when they choose council presidents, but residents should not be punished for more than 1 year when they make a mistake. 4 years is an eternity given the daily volume and impact of policy decisions. This to me sounds like common sense. I like the way this guy put it. I thought it was more thoughtful, but I'll leave that question with those comments. I want to turn to what's in our wheelhouse. The Taxpayers League has very strong feelings about budget controls and property tax revenue equity. Property taxes and how they're spent have complex accountability, transparency, economic incentive, and equity issues that each council member must weigh. Charter changes should be subject to voter referendum, and preparation for that on this topic will require a lot more explanation than the simple symmetry of council voting percentage formulas. So our first thought is that going above council spending affordability guidelines should require a high hurdle of 8 votes. That's the 2/3. Since those guidelines are already recommended by the GO Committee, the Government Operations Committee, and approved early in the budget cycle, and any changes to those guidelines should then require compelling new evidence that a supermajority agrees with. Now I'm going to extemporize a little bit here. Too many homeowners saw property tax increases this year of over 20%. That's because of the triennial reassessment process. This happened because 2 years ago, the council stripped the CPI limit on revenue increases from the charter. That wasn't a referendum. Leaving spending control guidance is the only way to prevent whopper tax increases. Last year, the council overrode the guidelines they had just adopted so that they could increase teacher and county employee pay with record budget increases. There was no compelling new evidence to support the over 10% pay raises that county employees got. Or for teachers, this was just a month after the council, with due consideration, approved a maintenance of effort ceiling on MCPS spending. In other words, the spending affordability guidelines blew up. Raising property tax rates, next topic, should require the highest hurdle of a unanimous vote. This is because this becomes the primary control when spending affordability guidelines fail, like it did last year. The 4.7% tax rate increase happened because the council process was manipulated by the council executive's fabricated education emergency to bypass the charter vote amendment. In fact, he was plain. He said that as a matter of public record. The council members either believed that there was an emergency, I doubt it, or they were cynically persuaded that they now had political cover for their actions. This was just a year ago. Property taxes are regressive, and any rate increase disproportionately affects lower income residents. They are also the victims of an inefficient state assessment process and local processes through the Department of Permitting Services, and weak incentives that are caused by separating the state's accurate and timely assessment controls from local revenue and spending controls. This allows wealthier residents to defer paying property taxes on tear-down rebuilds, that's in the down county, and increases the burden on residents elsewhere in unimproved homes and renters. I have two future considerations that I could go into. This would take another minute of your valuable time. I promised Jim that I wouldn't go into them unless you were interested, but they both build on this concept that we need better accountability and control over spending and revenues. And these are charter considerations that you didn't take up. Just to close out on the third item, we feel strongly that political appointments by the county executive should continue to require council approval to control patronage abuses. Jim, I don't know if I've used 5 minutes or not. Have I? Can I go to my future considerations, which you may take up in the next few months?
How about if I give you a minute? But I think these would be better topics for our public hearings when we take up new topics after we get our report, this report on these topics finished. But go ahead, I'll give you another minute.
Okay. One important charter change that you didn't consider is a revision to the tear-down rebuilds, a.k.a. McMansions, as new construction in Section 305, subject to immediate reassessment and a tax increase. Escaping new construction treatment under the current charter results in shifting increased taxes from these new down county homes to residents living in unimproved homes and renters. How should a down county council member weigh this equity issue when voting for a property tax increase? The Department of Finance controls this definition of new construction, and it appears to be an anomaly. I can't get any council members to focus on it, but then many of them are from down county that benefits enormously under this. The second future consideration is, why are we doing assessments at the state level? We're the last state in the country to do assessments at the state level. We've been told by very powerful state legislators that they do this because they don't want to see retaliation at the local government level from their political enemies. Well, geez, I would think that'd be a topic of consideration in the other 49 states, wouldn't you? This county, one of the wealthiest counties in the state, ought to join with other counties to move assessments back to the local level. That's the way the rest of the county does. That couples assessments with the spending. The assessment process is out of control. Those of you that have read the audit reports from the State Legislative Audit Group know that fewer than half the assigned assessments were done 6 years ago. What are the ones they miss? Well, we know they're missing all the tear-down rebuilds in down county. So this is a future consideration for you. I wish you luck on this. I've had no success, nor have any of the officers in the Taxpayers League, getting the council to focus on this question. It is a state question, but so far we've had very little luck with the state delegation. Thank you for your indulgence, Jim.
Thank you, and I expect we'll hear from you when we reopen our public sessions for new topics. Do we have anybody else online?
One person joined online, but he's not speaking.
Not speaking, okay. So thank you. That concludes our session today. I appreciate everybody's indulgence. I appreciate you coming to the session. We do have another session this evening that is virtual only online. You're welcome to join us this evening as well. I don't know whether we'll have a similar sized audience or bigger audience, but you're all welcome to return and find out. Thank you very much.